All right, welcome. Today we're going to dive into the incredible story of a true self-made visionary. I mean, this is a guy who built an entire empire from sheer grit. But the real hook, the thing that gets you, is the wild name he chose for his business. And that's exactly where we're going to start.
So check this out. This was the commercial slogan for a really popular general store back in Venezuela, El Incendio. Now in English, that means the fire. So the full slogan was, get this, the fire, the best house to buy everything. I mean, it definitely makes you look twice, right? Maybe not for the best reasons.
And that's the big question, right? Why on earth would you name your store The Fire? It sounds kind of destructive for a business you're hoping will, not burn down. But the answer is just incredible. It takes us right into the life of the founder, a man named Don Carlos Ramírez, and it shows how he took this idea of destruction and flipped it into a symbol of pure creation and ambition.
So to really get the name, you've got to get the man. And believe me, his story doesn't start in some fancy boardroom. No, it starts with some serious hardship. Okay, so Don Carlos Ramírez was born way back in 1904 into a pretty poor family in rural Venezuela. Then tragedy strikes. When he's just a teenager, a massive earthquake completely devastates the area. His family loses everything. They have to abandon their land. So what does he do? To survive, he has to become a merchant, as a kid. And get this, by 1927, that same kid opens his very first store.
I mean, just try to picture this for a second. While other kids are out playing games, Don Carlos is walking for miles, hauling cheese and other goods on his shoulders all the way from Colombia back to Venezuela just to sell them in the local villages. This wasn't some summer job for pocket money. This was his entire childhood, just work and survival.
But here's the thing. He didn't do it all alone. The real key, the thing that unlocked all that raw talent he had, was an amazing partnership he formed with the love of his life.
You see, Don Carlos was this natural-born entrepreneur. He was just bursting with ambition and big ideas. The problem? Because he'd been working since he was a boy, he'd never set foot in a school. Couldn't read, couldn't write. But then there was his wife, Doña Leona Umaña. She came from an educated family, and she saw right through to the brilliant mind he had. And so, she became his teacher.
And this partnership? It was absolutely transformative. I mean, she didn't just teach him his ABCs. She literally unlocked the entire world for him. He goes on to master this beautiful, elegant handwriting, the Palmer style, and he becomes a voracious reader, just devouring every book he can get his hands on. And with that literacy, he suddenly has the confidence to start writing to international publishers for his store. And while he's chasing this dream, what's she doing? Doña Leo opens her own laundry business just to keep them afloat financially. Now that is a true partnership.
So, okay, now you have his ambition, his drive, but it's supercharged with education. This is when that entrepreneurial fire he had inside just absolutely explodes. He starts coming up with these business ideas that were just decades ahead of their time.
I want you to think about this. Today, we're surrounded by loyalty programs, right? Points, rewards, the whole 9 yards. It's a huge industry. But how would you even begin to invent that idea from scratch, back in the 1930s, with no marketing textbooks to guide you?
Well, Don Carlos came up with this system that was just brilliantly simple. Here's how it worked. You buy something, he gives you some stamps. You take those stamps and you stick them in a special little booklet he gave you. And once that booklet was all filled up, you could trade it in for free stuff from the store. He literally invented a customer rewards program, all on his own. And here's what's so mind-blowing. Look at how early he was to this game. He was doing all this in the 1930s. To put that into perspective for you, the famous green stamps that many people remember in the US, they didn't even show up until the 1940s. And blue chip stamps came a whole decade after that. He was a genuine pioneer, way ahead of the curve.
But wait, he wasn't done. He didn't just stick to retail. He decided to get into the entertainment business. What he did was, he'd rent a house, hire a full orchestra to come over from Colombia, and then he'd charge people admission to come and dance all night.
He basically created a pop-up nightclub, the original proto-discotheque, decades before anyone was using that word.
And this wasn't just some cold business calculation for him. Don Carlos genuinely loved music. He was a talented musician himself, played the Colombian tiple, which is this cool little guitar-like instrument. And here's a detail I just love. It's such a perfect testament to their partnership. He and his wife, Doña Leo, actually won a waltz championship together. Okay, so at this point, his business ideas are proven to work, his confidence is sky high. Don Carlos knew it was time for the next big step. It was time to take this whole vision to a much bigger stage.
So, after about a decade of testing and perfecting his ideas in the small town of Rubio, he made his move. In 1937, he packed up and took his vision to the big leagues, the booming city of San Cristobal. He opened a brand new El Incendio right there on the main square. He was ready to show the city what he was made of.
And this brings us back to the name. This is why he called his store The Fire. You see, for him, a fire wasn't just about destruction and loss. Think about it. After that earthquake, a destructive event that felt like a fire, he had to rebuild his entire life from the ashes. He learned that a fire is a major event. It's something that stops everyone in their tracks and grabs their attention. So he took all that disruptive, chaotic energy and he turned it into a creative force. An unforgettable, attention-grabbing name for a business he built from literally nothing but his own vision and his own two hands.
So when you think about it, the story of Don Carlos really leaves you with one big thought. Here's a guy with no textbooks, no venture capital, no formal training. All he had was a problem to solve, an amazing partner by his side, and a really bold idea. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What simple, powerful, maybe even kind of strange ideas that are floating around today could be the very sparks that ignite the incredible innovations of tomorrow? Thanks for joining us.